city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Welcome to
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I'm here with Evan Liu, Ezra Parter, and Jackie K to talk all things Colorado Avalanche. If you enjoy what you're watching or are listening to, please head on over to YouTube, X, or Twitch. Give us a like, a subscribe, and a follow. And share us with your fellow Avalanche fans so that they can get in on the fun as well. We're actually doing a really fun ticket giveaway today, which we've done for our last 2 episodes. And if we are fortunate, we're going to try and do it in as many episodes as possible. So if you're interested in free hockey, definitely head over to our X. It's usually where we do our announcements, and follow at MHH_lab. So there you go. That's my spiel. Welcome, the 3 of you. Thanks for joining me.
Hello.
Thank you.
So we saw a little bit of action from the Colorado Avalanche over the last couple of days, which was a sight for sore eyes, especially if you are a sports fan in the state of Colorado otherwise. So watching the Avalanche beat the Vegas Golden Knights, even if it's preseason, was nice. They did lose to the Wild in the first preseason game. But when they lose, we say it's just preseason. And when they win, they say, oh, preseason's awesome. So that's kind of how it goes around here. So, but let's just get kind of right into the preseason action. And Evan, I'll start with you. Is there anyone in particular that stood out to you, maybe that was a shock or a surprise in the first couple of preseason games?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the sentiment that it's nice that hockey is back, and it only matters if your team wins, and it doesn't matter if your team loses.
Exactly.
Welcome to preseason hockey, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think in the second game in particular, I really liked how Wyatt Amont played with Bowen Byram there paired up on the first line of D. He really held his own. He did really well there, shut down a lot of pucks, and I think Byram was definitely helping him out along the way, telling him where to go, covering for Bo, especially because we know that Bo loves to go on a skate sometimes, right? And
Right.
holding him back there as well. So. Was definitely impressed with his play out of everybody out of the weekend for sure. Since maybe some people didn't expect it, myself included. So good for him. I mean, he probably won't make the opening night roster. I would doubt it. So it'll be good in Loveland regardless.
I was going to say he should hopefully have a good season down in the AHL with the Eagles, though. I agree with you. I thought he seems to have a pretty nice shot, which surprised me. Not something I was really keen on in terms of his game. I like what I saw from him. I really like what I saw from Olausson. Obviously, he got the goal, strong driving to the net. I called him Oxar all night on Twitter, which was classic Adrian on Twitter, and then didn't catch it until this morning. So apparently I was just, going through something last night.
That was really nice, though.
Yeah, that might just be his name from now on in my mind.
Because he's playing like an ox.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought you were doing.
It's all right.
Hey, that's better than last year on the news. They actually called him like Olaf. So, so you're closer.
Oh man!
Right. It's preseason for everybody, including
including me. Yeah, exactly. Ezra, I wanted to ask you. I mean, we saw kind of like 2 waves of normal people. When I say normal, I mean like normal everyday NHLers.
Okay.
In game 1, and then in game 2, there was kind of a different set of them. Which game do you think we'll see the most NHL players kind of at once, if you could predict?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally with preseason games, the last game of the preseason is where we see like, okay, most of the roster battles have been sorted out. We know who's sticking around in the NHL. So that's probably where we'll see like the real lines minus a couple guys who are injured and maybe a couple guys who need to just give way to guys who are fighting for those last roster spots. So I don't think we're going to see a ton of NHL players till the last game or two of the preseason.
Are there any players that you think won't even play at all in the preseason?
I think just with the injury situation for Cogliano and Makar, it's possible that those two don't get in. Obviously, Frankie, Landeskog, but those don't really count. But I would expect we get like at least a game of the big guys, McKinnon, Rantanen, but not more than one. If I'm being cautious as a coach, I don't think they need preseason to get going. I'm not a big fan of it, so that's just me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if you watched last night, it felt like the first period of the game was very much professional hockey, and then the second two periods of the game were very much amateur hockey. And I think anytime that's the case, it's kind of scary when you have your projected second line center out there going absolute gangbusters, physical. I thought Johansson was wonderful. It's great to see a big body like that throwing it their weight around in an Avalanche uniform again. But we'll keep it here kind of on the younger guys. Jackie, was there anyone besides those that we mentioned, and if you want to elaborate on Olausson or Amat, you can. But did any other young guys kind of stand out to you last night or in the first two games?
I guess there's two ways to look at this. I'd say the guy that probably surprised me was Kiviranta in the first game. I think he stood out as far as like the depth options, but he's obviously not a young guy. But I just wanted to mention him as maybe somebody that surprised me.
Okay.
I think obviously the young guys like Ivan and Jedlicka, those two, they were on like a fourth line, but they showed that they could keep up at pace and created a little bit of offense. So, and Jeremy Hansel as well, even though I wouldn't really call it a surprise. I think his game, even though it's still a little bit young and raw, is pretty consistent. So I kind of know what to expect from him already. I'd say those three probably of like the young guys did the best, and it showed that they didn't get cut today. So presumably they'll get another game, perhaps Thursday in Minnesota. And then Olausson, I also think deserves a mention, which we already have done, because it wasn't perfect, but like he had the energy level up.
Exactly.
He had the effectiveness up, pressuring the puck and trying to make plays, and so I think that's exactly what they wanted to see out of him, which is a good sign. So I think all the guys that I mentioned did a good job and should get another game. I just want to answer real quick about who I think what game is going to look the most like the NHL players, which obviously the last game. I think sneakily, though, the game on Sunday, the last home game, I think you might see some actual NHL players in that one. I think
just based on the travel.
Oh yeah, like they definitely won't. Well, they definitely won't travel. Like the game in Minnesota, the next one's going to be like total AHL. But the last home game, they usually like to get some of the big names out in front of the fans, and then
that makes sense.
Unless they're combining that last trip, Dallas, Vegas together, and giving them like a day off in Vegas, which I think they did once before, you could see some more people play in Dallas. But if not, then that one will still be like roster battle lineup. And then I'm not sure if Manson's going to play in preseason. Yeah. So
I want him to. That's why I didn't list him, because I'm like, I'd really like to see that guy, see if he's got anything going. But so yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's possible we might see him in addition to Cogliano and Makar.
He and Makar are in a situation, and Jackie, I think I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you made your bold prediction last week, I feel like you were talking about Cale Makar.
I was.
You said, someone we didn't expect.
I don't like to predict injuries, but that's who I was talking about.
Well, and I don't think you're really predicting an injury. I think you are reading the room in a way.
Reading the tea leaves, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when he didn't skate a couple that one day before, it was like,
Exactly. And I think that that's why I asked the question, is there a game where you see, or is there any player that you see just not playing at all in the preseason? Because that was kind of my thought, was it's probably going to be Cale Makar that won't play at all in the preseason. probably Manson that won't play at all in the preseason. And so you're going to be having a watchful eye for opening night. I wouldn't be surprised if the same thinking you have about not playing NHLers on that road game series, the same might be true to start the season. Like if Manson is still maybe close, maybe they keep him home for the California road trip to start the season and let him give a crack at it on opening night at home. Same with Kale, possibly. I would like to see Kale opening night of the NHL season because I think he can put up some real numbers this year and availability. And he only played 60 games and was a top 10 point producing defender. So if he can get to 80 games, who knows where that number ends up. We can talk historical seasons all over. And I'm absolutely here for that from Kale McCarr. And I think I'm not alone. But Ezra, I did want to double back to you and ask you if there was anybody that we haven't mentioned that stood out, or if you wanted to elaborate on any of the people we have as well.
Well, I was looking at the advanced stats for the game against the Knights, and something that jumped out to me was Johnny Fairbrother's underlying statistics were fantastic.
Really?
He got sent down to the AHL already in the cuts today, but I'm pleased to see that because during the game I didn't notice him at all. So his underlyings were good because he didn't do anything that made me him. So I just wanted to point that out. But no, I think we covered everybody who I was particularly interested in from the game, I guess, as far as young guys go. But as far as veterans go, I mean, Jonathan Drouin played very well. It's nice to see that. Yeah. I'm excited to see what he brings, whatever line he ends up on, because playing with who was he with last night? It was
Johansson and Poland.
Johansson and Poland, thank you.
Yeah.
That's going to be a different look than playing with McKinnon and Rantanen, obviously. But it's nice that he could look good in that setup, and we'll see what he looks like in the regular season.
Yeah, and if he's a top liner, if that ends up working out with him and McKinnon and McCarr, he's probably on the first power play. If he's on the first power play throwing around games like he was last night, I know the open ice changes a little bit when it's actual NHL hockey, but he seems to have a lot of poise with the puck, and he doesn't seem to like get impatient, which I know sometimes as Avalanche fans, especially on the power play, we like pull our hair out because they feel like they're looking for like the gorgeous play and not just getting pucks to the net. But I feel like Drouin's passing, at least so far from the one preseason game, what I noticed is that it's very intentional. He doesn't just like put stuff into areas. He sees potential plays and he is still aggressive with that passing and kind of a pass first mentality. Like that deflection, he put a really nice pass deflection, shot pass towards the net to Myers, and Myers just barely glanced in. It just didn't quite get on net. But it was a great pass. I agree with you. I thought Drouin looked great last night. I mean, do you have something to say along those lines as well?
I was just going to say, because I saw you on Twitter last night, don't get too ahead of yourself on Drouin over there, because I know you're very excited about him.
Well, I just want it to work because if it does, man, what a great story. And it's the kind of story that as a team you can rally around, I think.
No, you're
it's
right.
It's like Bork-esque, but not really. But it's got that vibe of like, get one for a guy who feels like he's been really unlucky, or maybe he's got a bad rap. Yeah, exactly. More like Kadri. You're right. You're right about that. That's a better comparison. I agree.
I would not mind a Kadri 2.0. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, and not only that, but if he kind of will be a Kadri 2.0 if he's on the first line rather than second line center, because I feel pretty confident about Ryan Johansson, at least in terms of physicality. I will say, hopefully he doesn't burn out, because he does seem like the kind of guy who's heavy. And so like he might struggle with stamina early on because of the location. And so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, he didn't I don't know, maybe this was me just getting lost in the bore of the second period in particular of last night's game. But I didn't really notice Johansson too much after his goal. But regardless, I mean, he talked about it after the game about being a bumper on the power play, which is really good, since that's sometimes Landeskog's position, right?
Yeah,
he's the bumper on the first power play unit. And with him out, of course, if Johansson can use that body, use that bumper to direct passes, and then also get to the front of the net and screen a goalie, and just be a problem, then that's great, right?
Yeah, Rijo, go study some Gabe tape. I love you.
I feel like that line didn't play much at 5-on-5. Like,
yeah, I agree.
They played
especially
a lot
in the later end.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's also part why I don't think we noticed him that much, because I just really don't think they were on the ice. So it's kind of funny in regards to Poland, because it looked like, hey, like he's put on the quote unquote top line for the night. Mm-hmm. Like, what a great opportunity for him. But I actually think it worked kind of against him, because he didn't really get that much time to do anything. And then you would think of like Olausson, like, oh, too bad he didn't get that spot. But instead, he got to play a ton. And I think it benefited him more to play more of that. I mean, that line played a lot, so I'm not going to call them like a fourth line. But I guess in reality, if that ever happened in a real NHL game, it showed that group could be like a viable fourth line. So it is funny that it worked in his favor more than if he had been put on that top line and then probably didn't play that much.
That's a good point, and I can't help but feel like that's not an accident either by coaches and whoever picked the lineup. Like, giving Olausson the carrot on the stick and kind of saying, well, Poland is in, you know what I mean? And see how he handles that, and see how Olausson – it seems like Olausson won last night. So I wonder if we see like a reversal in the future, and we see Poland on a line that's featured more just based on the style of the game and it being preseason and vice versa. So that's an interesting point. And I do want to mention that this program's favorite forward scored the game-winning goal, Curtis McDermott. So I guess get used to that, huh?
I legit laughed out loud when he scored right in front of us last night.
That whole sequence, yeah.
The entire like last like 5 minutes of that game for McDermott with the hit and the score,
and then the penalty, like
penalty of course
3 minutes later,
and then giving up the goal. Let's not forget that either.
Even before the penalty, he didn't backtrack and gave up a goal like 10 seconds later. I mean, that's just
I don't remember who it was, but somebody said, you are getting vintage Curtis McDermott hockey right now.
Exactly. Like, you got the full spectrum right there.
Yes.
And then the penalty was him actually hitting Steinberg instead of the other person. Like, the whole thing.
Yeah, he went knee to knee with them and then just blasted Steinberg.
Maybe the guy in the arena last night, because during one of the commercial, the games that they do in between, one of the questions that was asked in like this trivia part was like, who's on the cover of NHL 24? And McDermott was one of the options. And the guy jokingly goes, I wish it was Curtis McDermott because he deserves it.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
I guess it was just the McDermott game, apparently. So he's gonna somehow talk that game-winning preseason goal into trying to get playing time / a new contract. I can already see it now.
Yep. Yeah, well, and if you head on over to milehighhockey.com, you'll see Ezra's most recent article titled Curtis McDermott for Hart Trophy. So no, but do head on over there for our real articles. Maybe we should just start writing fan fiction about Curtis McDermott.
I was going to say, is that real? I'm going to look right now.
It can be. Tell me what
it can be. Whatever you want, Ezra says.
Oh, gosh.
But if you're watching us on X or if you're watching us on Twitch, don't forget we're also on YouTube. Head on over there at Mile High Hockey. And we have every one of our episodes that we've broadcasted live are available there, from number 1 to number 33, which is today. So congrats to you all for your 33rd good number in Colorado Avalanche land episode here. So let's take a look ahead at the 2023-24 season as we're getting closer and closer to real regular season NHL action in Colorado Avalanche hockey. One of the things I wanted to talk about was how the season will start for the Colorado Avalanche. So I did mention a little bit earlier, they will be on a road trip that starts in California. I believe the first game is against the Kings, and then they play the Sharks. And the third team is escaping me. Seattle, that's right. So Seattle will round out that road trip. I guess that's the new West Coast road trip. And that'll start their season, and then it'll be the home opener against the Blackhawks on October 19th. So, Evan, I'll send this one your way. How important is it to you, and what are the key components of the Avalanche getting a hot start this season?
And it's a good question. And, I think it's definitely important to start good, obviously, right, as we've seen before. I think this is also the first time in a good while, at least, that the Avs have started their season on the road. I mean, back to
Yeah.
as far as I can think of, I think 2019, 2018, they've always started at home against like the Flames or the Blackhawks usually.
Right.
But now they're on the road, right? So it's a little bit of a different challenge. So I think for two things at least, one, it would be nice to win because, of course, Ezra over here is our resident California native of the
And I'm
show.
gonna be
And
at that
he'll be
Kings game.
yeah,
Are you
he'll
really?
be
Nice.
at that
Very
Kings
cool.
game. So be nice to win for him, right? But also
Yeah.
just to get the season started off right? I know we talked about it last week about the mentality of this team and how they're going to come in to the start of the season after that first round loss. During training camp, it definitely had that same kind of 2021, 2022 vibes of like, this is all like business. We're
Gotcha.
all working here. And I hope at least that carries over and through the start of the regular season for sure. It's harder to tell, I think, how it is during the preseason, like once the games get started, like they have now. But if they can continue to have that strong mentality and hopefully get some players back like that, like a Makar, like a Manson, like a Cogliano, then that'll only help their case.
Yeah, we'll see how the time frame works out with their return. Hopefully it's not too long, but at the same time, you don't want them to rush, especially early on. Get healthy so that you can see the most action possible. Ezra, I'll kind of echo the same question to you in terms of what does a hot start look like to you, but I'll add that, in years past, we've heard from this team that their mantra kind of is to not lose consecutive games. Do you think that's still the realistic goal? And is that a part of a hot start for you?
I think absolutely that's a realistic goal. There's no team in the league that should consistently beat the Avalanche. So there's no two teams in a row that should beat the Avalanche.
Great.
I think that's exactly what they should be thinking all season. Each game they should win. So I think that's basic sports, but it's also like really true with this team. It's very realistic. Yeah. So to me, a hot start is, if they can sweep that road trip, great. But if they drop one, that's okay. But then coming back home and getting back on the winning track, if they do, would be very important in my eyes. I want to see a 6-0 start in the first 6, but if I see 5-1 or 4-2, I'll be okay.
Okay. And Jackie, do you echo that? And I'll just give you a hypothetical. Say it's 2-4. What does that tell you? And when will you be worried if the Avs aren't off to a hot start?
Well, I'd say it'd be kind of status quo, wouldn't it? I don't think they've had a hot start in quite a while.
They started, I think their Stanley Cup season, they started like almost 2-4, I believe, or 3 and something like that. So
I don't think they had that good East Coast road trip when they played like Washington. I think that was the Cup year. So of course I hope they have a good start. If it's even around 500, I think that's fine. It hasn't hurt them in the past. I mean, sure, a hot start is great. Like the more points you bank, the better. But I don't think it's going to be so much be the record unless they're like 0-6 or something. Then
gotcha.
You'd probably say like, okay, what's going on? But I just think like who's healthy, how are the lines looking, how's the chemistry, the production. To me, I think that's more important than the record. So, and who do they keep?
Well, and to your point,
who's on the team.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, like the record doesn't matter as much as kind of how they play, especially with who they've brought in. Like say the wins and losses aren't stacking up, but you're getting production from some of these new guys. And maybe some of the older Avalanche are kind of coming around, or we haven't seen Makar, stuff like that early on. I think that's still a success. And I do hope that, unlike Boulder fans, we see some patience for the Avalanche and they don't expect just things to be snippety. Although the Avalanche weren't a terrible team last season, so they should be pretty good. But I just mean in terms of the acquisitions they've made. And I think that those acquisitions are kind of showing up, at least in terms of bettors. Now, I feel like people misinterpret Vegas odds all the time because they think like it's almost like a poll or a vote. And that's not necessarily how it works. What it basically means is if a team is favored, that just means a lot of people are betting on them to win, not necessarily that Vegas thinks they'll win. So that being said, the Avs are favored for the second season in 4 years to win the Stanley Cup. I believe they're tied at plus 800 with the Carolina Hurricanes. And I'll ask all three of you. I did a poll on the MHH Lab X. That's MHH_lab. If you haven't followed us yet, head on over there to participate in our weekly polls. But basically, to what do you attribute that favoritism for the Cup for the second time in 4 years? And I know all of these have something to do with each other, but I want you to choose which one you most attribute this to. Roster and management, or core and talent, or coaching and culture. I'll start with you, Evan.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you're right that all three of them kind of, go into or part of a championship winning team, right? But I look at C, coaching and culture, and that one really sticks out to me, especially when you think back to the last 2 years. Jared Bednar has been very uptight on the culture of the club and making sure that everybody is doing this way, right? Versus a lot of last season, right? He had to do a lot more of the teaching, a lot more of the coaching bit, with a lot of guys going in and out of the lineup. The young guys who are just filling in basically, right? And I know he mentioned it at least at some point last season. I don't remember when it was. I think it was sometime after the McKinnon injury in Philadelphia, where he was like, yeah, I have to do a whole lot more teaching, right, than like coaching and telling people, what, the right way to set up this play, right? Like you're teaching somebody how to do whatever, right? I didn't play hockey,
right.
So I'm not the best person to talk about teaching hockey's sake, but
which skate goes where?
Yeah.
So I think if he's able to get the lineup that he wants, right, and he's able to have that coaching and culture that he had in 2021, 2022, it should lead to success.
Yeah, and I think, it just shows he's the winningest coach in Colorado Avalanche history. I know he's had some help from Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar and Mikko Rantanen and stuff like that, but the transition from, at least culture-wise, from Patrick Waugh to Jared Bednar is pretty stark. And I think that the difference is you can tell these guys are in it for each other. And I think that was maybe the message with Patrick Waugh, but the motivation and the tactics to getting there were a lot different. And I think what I agree with you that the culture and the coaching staff have done a really good job of setting a standard. And I think that they have a group of players that instill that standard among each other as well, which is why I chose core and talent. Because I feel like Jared Bednar would also agree that he has one of the most and has had one of the most talented rosters in most of the years he's coached the Avalanche. And that goes volumes, especially when I think of talent, not just in terms of on the ice, but in terms of like leadership, like Nathan McKinnon and Gabe Landeskog. Ezra, how did you vote on this poll? Roster management, or core and talent, or coaching and culture?
Yeah, I'm with you. I voted core and talent. I think the bottom line for winning a cup is having that essential core that can take you there and finish the job. And the Avalanche core has proven it can do it. I think it's obviously like roster and talent and management comes into play huge, and coaching comes into play as well. The team last year needed a couple extra bodies. This year they've got them, so hopefully it works out. But without that core, it doesn't matter who you surround what you've got with. You can still be, the New York Islanders. So, so it's that's the difference between teams that can make the playoffs and teams that can really win is that high level core, and we got it.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because I think if you go back to what Evan said as well, is like we've seen people that we thought were a part of that core, like Matt Duchene, go, and I think it had to do with the culture and how he fit into that, just personality-wise, and kind of just where he was in his career. I don't think he was ready to buy in anymore, which more power to him. It worked out for everybody, I think, and it'll be crazy to think that we'll be playing Matt Duchene and the Dallas Stars this season. So he's just become a journeyman. But Jackie, you're the last one. I'll ask this question: do you attribute that cup favoritism to roster management, core and talent, or coaching and culture?
Well, first of all, I'll say I was actually surprised the Avs are the favorite. I had to look it up, and there's various sources, but it's true for the vast majority I saw, which, like I said, is a little surprising. I mean, Vegas just won, and they're bringing back almost their entire team, so you just kind of would think like the benefit of the doubt goes to the reigning champions, and part of that is also why the Avs are up there as a recent champion. But for me, I still think they have questions they need to answer before they're the favorite to win the cup. Like, they're in the mix for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, they're a contender, no doubt. But I wouldn't vote with my dollars that way if I'm out there trying to make money. But I would also say that the reason why is the core. Superstars are what drives perception. And so if people out there are believing in the Avs, it's because of Makar, McKinnon, Rantanen, if they even remember him. So
they even remember.
I know, he's just like the forgotten child.
Yeah, he really is.
55 goals last year. It's crazy. But
speaks to the talent that this roster has. It really
exactly. And so that's what people see when they think of the Avalanche. They see the high-end talent, and so rightfully so that they're gonna be believed in by the public.
Yeah, I love that line. Talent drives perception. That's wonderful, because that makes sense of a lot of the hype we see from teams that don't kind of come through, that are very talented, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. AKA the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know. But I want to stay here just for a second to talk about roster and management, because I feel like that's the one that none of us really talked about or picked on. Is there a reason for that? Is it because that's still yet to kind of be proven if the moves that they've made will work out? Are the moves in the past not enough, or what are you thinking, Ned?
I think you're kind of right with the first point that you mentioned of like there's just some unknowns, right?
Okay.
I think we're all kind of traumatized from last season with all of the injuries too.
Yeah.
When it comes to like
their job hasn't come up yet.
Exactly. Like will it really everyone be okay, or will we just have a buttload of injuries again? Like, you never know, right? And I think that's a good point. But I think too, when you think of like the roster, at least, there's not a ton of depth, like especially with the Eagles in particular. If injuries do become a major issue again, and we're playing Mikko Rantanen and 14 AHLers, right?
Those score 70.
I know, right? So I just think that's kind of where maybe the unknowns, and maybe why that answer wasn't chosen by any of us. At least that's what I think personally. If Ezra or Jackie say otherwise,
that's fair. And I wonder, Ezra, do you think there's any like doubt based on the transition of power after the Cup win and maybe how last year went, that it's kind of still proving grounds for Chris McFarland, or do you think, as we've kind of discussed, that nothing really changed except their titles?
I mean, I think that's fair. I do think that, I think really like Sakic and McFarland are probably still working together in mostly the same capacity. I wouldn't expect that to be too much different. But I really don't attribute this, the way that this vote played out on Twitter, to what actually has been done with the roster. I think it's just like the team. A general manager can do a fantastic job and put together a fantastic supporting cast, but if there's no great core, then it doesn't matter. So for me, it's like, it's very important if you're going to win the Cup to have all the roster machinations go very well. That matters, but like ultimately, what makes this team good is not how good the supporting cast is. It just is.
Yeah. It's that talent that's driving perception. Yeah, that's right. I love that, Jackie. I'm putting that on a T-shirt.
Good.
I'll give you some there. I'm just kidding. But before we move on, we're going to talk about ideal lines and D pairings. But before I do that, I do want to announce our ticket winners via our trusty picker wheel. So let me pull that up real quick. And if you weren't able to get in this time, don't forget to follow us at MHH_lab on X, where we announce our ticket giveaways. We've done it the last 2 weeks, and we're going to try to continue to do it week by week if we are fortunate enough to in terms of tickets. So let's spin this wheel. Can everybody see my screen? Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
It's spinning.
Oh,
Maybe.
is it? It is not. It's not spinning on my screen, at least.
This is the slowest spin ever, if it is. Oh my goodness.
Oh
Look
my
at
god.
this. Oh, it's spinning. Look at this.
There we go. Ever so slowly, it's getting there.
Oh, the suspense.
Let's predict who wins. I'm gonna go with Bree Fine.
I'm gonna go with it's Lacey. Oh,
Okay.
it's so weird because you can't track it at all.
I know. It's kind of funny. It's right. It's preseason for everybody. Remember, it's preseason for everybody, including the wheel.
How long do you think this wheel is gonna go? Does this wheel know we're running a live show here? Let's go with this thing. Oh
You have
man,
to do it again to stop it.
I don't think so. I think it's supposed to
Okay.
just stop on one. Oh, oh, oh my god!
That's funny.
Holy
That's
moly! This is just absolute gold in terms of entertainment. We'll
This
see if
is a-
this
this
thing
is a-
ever.
This is a great ad break for
Yes.
Chobani Flip and Albertsons. We're getting screen time here, so if you guys want to just contact us
Yeah.
for
Holy
for
moly! All right,
Great.
well, let's try this
Try
again.
again.
I'm gonna do it on my phone this time. Holy mackerel! Cancel the vote.
Take two.
All right,
Take two.
take two. So while I pull that up on my phone, we will talk about ideal line combos and D groups. I will start with Jackie because I think I ended on Ezra with our last segment. So Jackie, what does an ideal lineup look like to you with at least the current available players for Game 1 against the Kings on October 11th?
Let's see.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I think we kind of know. I mean, I'm not going to deviate too far from what the lines are looking like. Like, Duran with McKinnon and Johansson centering the second line, and we'll see the Tatar, Colton, Wood line. So I'm fine if we start with that.
Okay.
I personally would probably rather see Myers start in the AHL. I've said this before, and I know everyone knows I'm not like the biggest fan of his, but it's not just because I don't particularly like his game that much. It's just that he is waiver exempt until he plays 10 more NHL games. So, and I think he's a guy that they really would not want to waive. Just so many teams are interested in signing him. I think somebody would probably bite. And so they're going to have a much easier time getting guys like Olofsson. And if they sign Kiwi Ranta, like, who cares if they waive him, right? Tufty.
Right.
So I think you need to start Myers in the AHL, and then, by midseason you can commit to keeping him up. I think is fine. But I would hate to see them burn through those 10 games and then they're just like stuck with him. So
what do you think is kind of the, I guess, what's your outlook for Myers? Because he came in pretty fierce. Everybody had really high expectations, and it kind of looked like he was going to live up to them in that really short stint he had to end the season a couple years back before the playoffs. Where do you see him now that like a couple of years have passed? Yeah.
Sort of similar. I really think his limitation, he's not the most skilled guy, but I mean, we're also talking about, O'Connor isn't necessarily the most skilled guy either, or the other ones that are fighting for his job. I think the hockey IQ is not there. I don't think he quite gets the system. I think he chases the puck around. His positioning's not good. If you just spend a game or even a period just just watch him. Watch him. He just chases the play, goes back and forth. It just, it's like he just doesn't grasp it. But the things I do like about him, he's good at pressuring the puck. When they're in the offensive zone, especially like you could see it last night, creating that chaos and stuff. But I'm not sure he's ever gonna quite get it. I just don't think the IQ's there, and you really can't help that. I mean, if he doesn't know the system by now, and he's not a kid, he's like 25 years old. I just think, why are they going to keep forcing it? Like, they have all these other options that probably could do similar, but I don't think they're going to give up on him, which is why I'm just saying, like, if he just spends 20, 30 games in the AHL, I don't think that's the worst thing ever. And then they can keep him mid-season once he burns through his exemption and try to make it work. But ideally, I'd probably like to see a guy like Olofsson. Like, I really can't even say that he's made an impression on me at all. Like, I've seen more from, like, Kiviranta, but I think he can do that fourth-line center job. And so I'd like to see him center Cogliano and O'Connor. And then I'd probably sign Kiviranta to be the 13th forward, and then I'd waive McDermott too. Like, I just like the whole McDermott storyline is just so dumb to me. I agree. It's odd that they've decided he's a forward, but then they have all these other options. I don't know. It's like backwards to me. I still, God, I really don't believe it that they're actually going to get rid of him. But then why did you sign 3 PTO forwards and have like 6 guys that could potentially make the bottom of the lineup if you're just going to keep him? So to me, it's like the worst storyline ever, but that's truly like the one, I don't even want to say intrigue, just the most uncertainty.
Yeah, the one you're paying attention to because you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, are they really going to do it? Are they really going to rip the Band-Aid off and send him down? And he'd be beloved there. It's not like they're sending him to war. It's just like he'd be okay.
Well, I honestly feel like he would kind of be not exposed, because I don't like to say that about any team player on my favorite team. But like, I think we've talked about this before. It's like he's really not that tough guy that people talk about. Honestly, Middleton's more that than he is. So, in my opinion. But
they'll get along great. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, my point is like, I think you get a little more if you're looking for something like that. I almost feel like you would get more from Middleton in other ways than you get from McDermott. Which the argument would be, well, he plays forward and scores, and it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So it's like, I
said this before. Like, there's nothing about him that's a forward. Like, you just can't just decide somebody's a forward and then, like, oh, well, he has versatility. I mean, it's just crazy. It's like anybody.
Hey, we'll put Middleton at left wing, and look, there you go. He's got versatility.
Exactly. Like, Fairbrother's now a forward. Look at him. He has versatility. It's just like, no, there's nothing that he brought to the table independently that was like, wow, this guy's been a forward before. We could do both. And as an aside, I wonder, like, all these fringe guys, maybe they should be both moving forward. Like, if I was worried about getting marginalized by the Avs, I would work on being both and being like, look at me. I actually hired a trainer. I worked all summer. I'm a forward now, just like, McDermott and McDonald and all these other guys. I mean, to me, it's just like, it's insane.
And I'll fight at like the worst possible time and not when my guys get smoked when like I'm supposed to.
But he's not that guy. Like, there's guys that feed off of it. They love it. They love getting in the mix. They like choose violence. There's the people that wake up and like want to choose violence, and he's just not that guy. He's like a gentle giant, and he can hit somebody, but it's just. To me, the whole thing is just, it makes you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone. And you're just like, how is this what I'm seeing? And then like half the world out there just doesn't see the same reality. It's like
it's almost like starstruck, but it's
exactly.
Especially when it's from an organization like the Avalanche. Like, if this was the Edmonton Oilers, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
We need that sound clip of "Trust me, pal. You're not that guy, pal.
You're not that guy. Yeah,
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy."
Well, I have another question on here, and when I'm reading it to myself in the script, I feel stupid because he was already, I believe, on the second power play, which is Bo Byram, but I'm not entirely sure. If he isn't, because I guess my question is, Bo Byram has a great shot. He's the kind of defender you would want on a power play. The thing is, you have Cale Makar and Devon Toews, and if you really want to do a 2-defender power play, you can probably just do Cale Makar and Devon Toews, and you can keep and you can let Byram quarterback the second power play. Is kind of my thought when I ask this question. Ezra, what is your reaction to that idea? And am I now in the twilight zone with Curtis McDermott?
I'm sorry, you're saying let Byram quarterback, but still have Toews and Girard on the power play?
No, so Toews and Makar on the first. I guess my question is, can we do 2 power play lines with 2 defenders, or can we take G off the second power play altogether and just have Byram quarterback the second?
I think there's 2 parts to this answer. One, I think Byram should absolutely run power play 2. I think he showed last night's obviously not a perfect example of what anybody can do since it is preseason, but the power play was humming. I think it didn't score, but it was good.
No, it did.
It did score right at the end. Yep.
Yeah.
Was he in on that?
Yeah, he was the other assist on the
secondary assist.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just remember the Druin pass to. But regardless, I think like he should be running power play 2. He is the most offensively skilled defenseman aside from Cale Makar. Sam Girard's great, but he can't shoot in the same way. Devon Toews is great, but he also just doesn't have that offensive instinct that Makar and Byram have as far as distribution goes. I love when he jumps in the play and finishes even strength, but I think for me that seems clear. Whether we run 2 defensemen on those units, I don't think that's really necessary. I think the Avs have enough skilled forwards now that doesn't make sense to me.
Great.
But if they wanted to, if Bednar is convinced that Toews and Girard are the best offensive skill to put on that unit, I don't have a problem with it. It just seems like there's enough forwards now that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked, because it's just if you decide that it's not going to be 2 defenders on each power play unit, someone's getting left out. And when I look at those 4 dudes, obviously it's not Cale. Cale's the quarterback of power play 1. Duh.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to do a tandem situation, you almost don't want to do it there because you think you're right. I think you actually have 4 serviceable power play ready forwards right now. So then you look at that second power play unit and you think, okay, this might be where you have the 2 defenders. We've seen them do it before with Toews and Girard, where they kept doing that give and go one-timer move from the point, which worked a couple times, and then just kind of went completely dark after a while. Evan, I'll kind of just wrench this one your direction. How do you feel the Avs will handle the power play lines going into this season now that there's kind of newfound forward depth, or at least we hope?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely something to question, right? As Ezra has already kind of gone over, but especially with the forwards in particular, I do like Johansson there in that bumper spot, as I said before.
Right.
I think that'll be kind of his place to stay, right? Rantanen will be up there, of course. McKinnon will be. I'm interested to see what they do with Druin and either Lehkonen or Nichushkin. If they will have who they'll put on the first unit, who they'll put on the second unit, right? We've seen Nichushkin on that first unit before, and he's found tons of success. I think back to the Stanley Cup final where he was just dominant and didn't give anything to Vasilevsky. Yeah,
and the beginning of last season, before he picked up that ankle injury, he was a goal per game.
One of the hottest forwards in the league. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'd be interested to see what he looks like on that first unit, or if Bednar really wants to have Druin and McKinnon together up there on that first unit. Druin maybe wouldn't be as successful on the second unit with like a Lekanen or a Byram or a Taves, whoever else is on there, right? I think there's definitely lots to play around with when it comes to it for sure. And then I'll throw in like another wild card here. Does Kovalenko make a power play 2 unit appearance when he makes it over from Russia?
Yeah.
I feel like that could be a possibility too.
Especially if, who knows, with injuries, he's still in the lineup, definitely.
Yeah, that too. I mean, lots of options to play around with, which is a good thing for a coach,
right?
To have all those options. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how it all plays out. Once the puck drops October 11th.
Well, that's a good point.
I was going to say, I do have a few thoughts on the power play.
Yeah, I was gonna send it your way. I would.
Okay. Okay, I wasn't sure.
We're talking phone time.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Getting back to the defenseman point, I'd take Taves off the power play. I just don't think that his skill set. I mean, he's fine. Like, if there's injuries, there's no problem if he's on it. I just don't think that he needs to be on it in an ideal lineup. Like, I just don't really think he's that creative. He just does the basic, pass left, right, shoot, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his minutes are best served 5-on-5. Like, does he really need to spend extra 2-3 minutes on a power play? And I know he's a veteran and it's like a reward or whatever, and maybe he wouldn't be too thrilled with no power play time. But if you're picking 3 defensemen, I would keep Girard over him. I think Girard does have the creativity and brings a little bit different look to it. But in my ideal world, I feel like Cale should be freed up as a shooter. Maybe not all the time, but I wish there was a different look for power play 1 where somebody else quarterbacks it, say Byram, and then you have Cale on the right side. He loves that shot even though he's a righty, from that right circle. He loves that.
We saw him
shot.
there a lot when he was young, like in his rookie year. Yeah.
And I think for the Avs, that is their competitive advantage. I mean, to be able to throw out a look like that, where you have Makar as a shooter, and you have somebody else and then you have someone as good as Byram quarterbacking it. What an incredible, competitive advantage that would be. And I just wish that they would get into it, but it just seems like they're stuck with the, you can only do the 2D power play on the second unit. And I think I would have it be Byram and Girard. Girard's going to quarterback it. They've given Byram a lot of those looks on the high right side.
Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of junior tape from scoring goals on that high right side too. So it's a comfortable zone for him for sure.
And then as far as the forwards, I feel like Drouin should get a look on the first unit because he hasn't been the most productive guy, but he has done fairly well on the power play in his career, and even recently. So I think if you did a setup like that where he's like Mikko's obviously more of the one-timer on the right side, but if someone's like on the high right, sort of like where they put Byram on the second unit, I could see Drouin on the first unit in that spot.
That's where he was hanging out last night, pretty much. That's where he fed Johansson from in the bumper too. Yeah, so he's right on. So
yeah, Johansson's going to be more of like the bumper in the middle. If they want a total net front guy, that's obviously Nichushkin. So it just depends, like the setup. I think. Do they kind of want more of the two on the right side that you use Drouin? If you want more of the net front, you use Nichushkin. So to me, that's like the either or there. I don't think Lekkonen's a day 1 power play 1 kind of guy. I mean, he obviously can play there. I just don't think you're going to build your best 5 out of that. And so he'd probably most likely be on the second unit. So for me, I guess I'd start with Drouin. Let's see what he can do. If we really believe in him, believe in his production, his chemistry, put him on the first power play unit and see if it really clicks. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does. And the more it does, yeah. And the more we talk about it,
power play.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, I feel like why have 3 defenders at all? Why not just have Makar and quarterback 1 and Byram quarterback 2, and then run your 4 forwards otherwise?
Well, who's your 4 forwards on your second power play then? Because I do think Girard has that. I agree with Jackie on Girard there.
Yeah, well, I guess just based on what we talked about there, there's Nichushkin on your first power play unit because if he's not, for sure him.
Yeah,
If it's not him, then Johansson. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If Lekkonen's not on your first unit because Drew In is, Lekkonen's on your second. Let's see who else we got.
Colton.
Ross
Tatar.
Colton and Tatar. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's basically your second power play unit. So
Yeah, Tatar's the odd man out when I make my configuration.
well, it's like going back to what Jackie said about their styles. Like Gerard isn't known for scoring; he's known for creating, and like sure that's valuable on the power play, but like those plays set themselves up when you have an advantage.
Yeah.
You don't really.
Tatar can also create in that way. So
Yeah.
you don't, and he's a more lethal shot. Like we saw last year with Gerard on the power play, teams did not have anybody challenging.
No
his shot.
respect. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that does make sense.
Yeah. And then in terms of Taze, we've all kind of agreed, like, yeah, he's a great defender, but maybe he's not like the scoring touch kind of guy, the offensive producer kind of guy. When you get something from him offensively, you're like, whoa, that's pretty impressive. And you take it, but it's not necessarily something you rely upon.
Yeah, he's kind of like a smart offense guy more than a skilled offense guy. Like
Position,
when
yeah.
he scores his goals, it's because he snuck up out of nowhere at the back post. And you're like, how did he even get there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's amazing. He's great at it. But yeah, he's not power play a power play lock in my eyes.
I didn't even think about Thomas Tatar when it came to the power play. When thinking about
Right.
my lines.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's like all of a sudden there's forward depth. So if there's real health there, you have real options on the power play. And then if stuff doesn't work, then you can go back to putting two defenders on the same power play, stuff that you've done before. So that's kind of where my focus is to start the season, is to see obviously where the first, like the top six lines up, but also like how that'll heavily dictate how the power play units look.
I also like the Kovalenko idea. That's fun.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, for sure.
And if he
So
wants to guarantee he can get a roster spot when he comes over, he should start playing defense in Russia.
Exactly. Get that versatility.
Exactly. There we go. All right. Well, I got my wheel for the ticket giveaway back up and running. This time it's on my phone, and it looks like we're doing an advertisement for Ring this time. So let me see if I can close that out before I spin it. But here we go. We're gonna spin this thing. Let me turn the volume on so you can at least still hear the clicks, because that's fun.
Oh yeah, those clicks were fun. That's right. Yeah, call us
Seems
up,
like
Ring.
StreamYard edited them out.
Oh, you called it.
Fine.
You called it, Evan. There we go. All right. So, Bree Fine, you've won 2 tickets to the Colorado Avalanche final preseason home game on October 1st against the Dallas Stars. That's 2 tickets. So, I will be in touch with you on our X. That's at MHH_lab to get your email address, and I will send those tickets your way. And then you will be sitting at a Colorado Avalanche game at Ball Arena for free, watching the Avalanche play the Dallas Stars and Matt Duchene. So there you go.
Matt Duchene guaranteed to be in the lineup.
Yeah, he might be. It's the last preseason game. Who knows? It's a possibility. That's for sure. But we have a little bit of time left, and obviously my mom's not telling me I have to stop anytime soon. So we can keep going longer if we have to. If I haven't touched on anything that you all want to talk about, now's the time.
You live with your mom.
Yeah, I don't actually live with my mom.
That's here.
Let the record show.
Evan's at his mom's.
Unemployed college grad here.
Nothing wrong with it, but let the record show I do not, in fact, live with my mother.
Let's go over the cuts, because I was gonna bring it up at the very beginning when we were talking about them. Not
and while you do that, I'll bring up last week's bold predictions. So
yeah, not really many surprises. So 6 players are going to the Eagles. DJ Boosdecker, Gianni Fairbrother, Kyle Mayhew, Cedric Pare, Ryan Sandelin, and Dalton Smith. And then Jiglov is headed to the USHL with his new team, the Tri-City Storm. So not a ton of surprises, I would say. I know that Sandelin played, I believe, last night or Sunday, one of the two. Again, didn't stand out too much.
No, first night.
Oh, first night? Okay. And I know you already mentioned Fairbrother a little bit too, Ezra. I'm a little surprised that Fairbrother didn't end up staying for at least one more game.
Yeah, me too.
Rather, he only just played the one, but I don't know. I know Jackie will probably have more comments on on the prospects going up and down than we would. But I mean, I honestly don't think there's too many surprises, at least in that list.
Jack, do you have anything to add there, or Ezra, do you?
Sorry, I was muted. Haha. Sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
I wouldn't say, definitely nothing too surprising. It was kind of a smaller cut. I think they could have made a larger cut. I think they know on a lot others, but Fairbrother, yeah, a little bit. Like, he's the only guy on that list that has an NHL contract. So for that reason alone, just kind of makes it stand out. But he just hasn't played. Like, he's played 25 games in the last 2 years. Like, when people say, "Oh, all these guys are injured all the time," I mean, that's truly like the injury impacting his career. So maybe they just want to get him just down there and just up to speed, and hopefully he can play a lot of games. I haven't loved him. I don't really like him in camp settings. I think he plays fairly soft, but I do think last night he did some good things. He made some nice passes, like Ezra mentioned earlier. His analytics were good. I think he had a lot of shot attempts, which surprised me because I can't even recall a single one. But but he did them, and so I mean, assuming like the NHL completely ruined their app and website, so it might not even be accurate at all.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
I saw somebody tweeted like every time they try and fix it, they just make it worse. And
it's
so
terrible. It's actually like distressing because like I actually need information from it. Like, people are always like, "Oh, you know, their website always sucked" or whatever. It's like, but it was usable. It was actually was still usable. But
from Natural Stat Trick, he had one shot on goal, but while Fairbrother was on the ice at even strength, the Avs generated 7 shots and gave up 0.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good. I think he had 4 individual shot attempts or something in 5-on-5, which would also drive why he was considered an analytics standout. But so assuming that's correct, because you can't just assume anymore that even the analytics are correct. So that was a good night for him. So like I said, maybe a little surprised, but I think like he's just gonna need to play if he can string together a bunch of games, and then we'll see what he looks like. And then Zhigalov, just to touch on, I mean, you know, I just don't think they have a whole lot of interest left in him. Seemed like he was banged up at the end of camp, but nobody even really mentioned it or cared. So, you know, honestly, it's sad to say this is probably the last we'll see of him. I do enjoy him though. Like,
gotcha.
He's a fun personality. You know, his athletic style's fun, but I just think that probably was the end of the road for him.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how it goes. And in this league, it's still a business, and sometimes the character just isn't quite enough. We're also seeing like kind of a cool story from Holland, who's coming back from basically forced retirement from injury. He played a little bit last night, so there's a couple of feel good stories kind of out there for the Avalanche that you want to kind of see how they play out. Ezra, is there anybody on that cut list that you want to mention or comment on?
No. Fairbrother's the only guy. I'll say, just because I have the stats in front of me, Sandelin got 8 minutes at even strength and didn't do much with him. So
that makes
he
sense.
wasn't given much opportunity, and he didn't do much. So.
Didn't do much with the little opportunity he was given. Well, sometimes that's the way it goes when you're down there at the bottom of kind of the roster, and you got to make the most of very little opportunity. And speaking of making the most with very little opportunity, it's time to recap last week's bold predictions, which we have some results already for all 3 of them. We'll start with Evan. Evan, bold's prediction this week was Jason Poline will beat out competition to make opening night. As of right now,
it's still possible.
It's possible.
It's still there.
We're gonna give you a correct as of now. We'll double back to that though.
Unfortunately, don't like the chances, but it's there.
Yeah. Hey, well, he was on the top unit last night, so maybe he's being protected. Jackie, your bold prediction was that we would be made aware of a surprise no-go on opening night. I think that's already true, I would say. And so that's why you're getting the lovely correct.
Okay, I'll take it. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see about opening
We'll
night,
see for
but-
sure on opening night, but I have a feeling you're correct on that. And then Ezra, my man. Poor dude.
Poor Ezra.
You messaged the chat. Well, I guess I'm wrong already, right? You
I
can
think
just
it was
wait
the-
until
I
the
think it
next
was
episode.
The day after
Oh.
we made those predictions. of that,
Saku
It
Menelainen
feels
will
like it was
make.
like an hour after we got off the air, but I know it was the next day. But it feels like it was, just an immediate gut punch.
Yeah. So it was Saku Menelainen will make the NHL roster, and as we know now, that is incorrect.
He
So
didn't even make the preseason roster.
didn't even
yeah,
make-
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well,
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
I'll send it your way first. Give me one that you think will resolve before our next episode, if you can, and if not, give me the one you have written down.
Are you talking
Who, me?
to me?
Evan, yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Okay. You might cut out, so I wasn't sure. I'm trying to think of a good one for like the rest of preseason, since I know we still have at least a couple more preseason games to go. Bold prediction for preseason. I know we talked about like the big guys getting games or anything or
Yeah.
something like that. I would be worried, at least injury wise, that maybe not, and I think Bednar might be too. So I think we see one big name end up not playing in preseason.
Okay.
Like
So you mean like
like
a
a McKinnon or a
McKinnon, like something like that?
yeah,
All right.
not like a Makar who we already know might not. I'm not going to cheat my way into that.
Okay. Ezra, what's your bold prediction?
I'm gonna disagree with myself from last week and say that Jeremy Hansel actually is gonna do enough to get a contract. I
Nice.
really liked him in the last, the other game. So, yeah, I'm sticking. I'm going on a limb for my guy.
Jeremy Hansel. Let me finish this tweet, and now I can at you, Ezra. Jeremy Hansel will make the opening night roster.
No.
No.
He's
Just
not gonna
that
play
he
for
gets
the
a
Avs.
contract.
He's gonna
like-
get.
He's getting a contract. Oh, okay, sorry. See what happens when Adrian tries to do too much.
That's real bold if he made it to opening night.
Yeah.
The boldest of predictions. We'll get an AHL contract.
If he makes the opening,
Get
night
Kale
roster,
McCarr.
a
Here's
lot
Jeremy
is going
Hansel.
on.
Oh, that's why they don't pay me at all, guys. That's why they don't pay me at all right there. Jackie, your bold prediction this week.
I was gonna kind of go the same lines, but just say that Jedlicka was gonna get an AHL contract, which is probably not that bold, but I just don't believe that anything like huge is gonna happen with anyone else. So
So
for
basically
them,
the
that'd
same
be bold.
thing. Same thing, but it's how do you
AHL
pronounce?
deal.
Yeah, okay. Same
Maros
one. But
Jedlicka. I like that pick
Yeah.
though. That's a good pick.
yeah,
could
I
see
thought
that
he looked really good last night in particular. So I think he had a couple cross-eyed passes that I was like, whoa, that's a pretty
That
impressive.
entire third line of Smallman, Jedlicka, and Ivan they had their moments last night. They were just missing, the connection here or there.
Well, and
I just feel like he has nowhere else to go. Like he could go back to Slovakia, but like it's too late for him to even go to like say Sweden or Finland or something like that. But I think it kind of set up as either or. Like, is he good enough to stay in North America? I think he has proved that. I mean, he's good enough to play with the Eagles and get a shot, and so they should give him the contract. I mean, and I think he would even take an AHL deal. Like he wants to play in the AHL, so that's bonus for them. Like he probably would even do it. So
Jack's
I don't
bold prediction: Maros Jedlicka will also get an AHL contract. And if you couldn't tell, I was able to pronounce his name because now I have it in front of me via the internet. So thank you, internet. I like all of your bold predictions. I didn't realize until after the show last week that I didn't make one at all. So
Well, yeah.
I skated by on the ding or X button thing, or sound effect. So I'll give my bold prediction. My bold prediction is that we will see someone be reassigned we'll just say it. I think Ben Myers will be sent to the AHL sooner than we think.
That's actually an interesting one. That probably is like the boldest of our.
Yeah.
Like my pick really isn't bold. It's just more of a prediction. But so yeah, that's a bold one because I was thinking like who would be a surprise early cut. That would definitely be one of them.
That would be one. I mean, that would work well for my last week's prediction if Poland doesn't go down with him at the same time.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of what I don't know. I don't get a lot of confidence from the situation with him and how the organization maybe views him right now, and that's just kind of where I'm at with that. So we'll see. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I like Ben Myers. I hope I'm wrong.
It does seem like they're trying to replace him, but I mean, they haven't exactly stacked the deck against him either. So,
did you all like his game last night? I didn't like. He didn't jump out, but I didn't mind it.
I didn't, but I want more from a guy who was supposed to be good 2 years ago. You know what I mean? That's just how.
Like I said earlier, I think he worked well collectively in that group. Like, hey, he got his first assist in an Avs sweater. Finally, but I don't think the IQ's there, and I'm not sure there's much you can do about it. Like, especially in the first period, it was just like, oh goodness, you're just watching him run around. But I think he did get better. The line collectively got better. So I'm not gonna say it wasn't a good game, but I don't know. It's been a long line of others like Bowers. And I know that ship is way sailed, but
I know what you mean.
The double standard drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that all sorts out in the near future, and we'll get back at you Avalanche fans next week with our 34th installment of the Mile High Hockey Lab. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Adrian Hernandez. I'm here with Evan Liu, Ezra Parter, Jackie K. Thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you next time. Be sure to head on over to milehighhockey.com. Check out our latest and greatest articles. Be sure to follow everybody on X. And you have a wonderful evening. Go Avs.
Welcome to
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Mile High Hockey Lab.